The guys behind the From Corner to Corner podcast are diving deep into Montgomery County High School sports with the Community Trust Bank Coaches Corner. Join us as we talk local high school athletics with your local coaches. Whether you're a student athlete or a screaming fan, this is the place to turn to get the inside scoop before the next big game. And now, it's time for the show with Sean Kiper, Neil Payne, Adam Muncy, and Wes Crouch.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of From Corner to Corner Coaches Corner, presented by Community Trust Bank. Sean and Wes here with you tonight, and tonight we are bringing in the athletic director, Austin Maples, for his second visit here. Austin, thank you so much for returning back to the show. Obviously you like us or you wouldn't have come back.
No, I love the chance to come and talk to you guys, and I appreciate you all allowing me to be here.
Awesome. Well, we've got school year's almost ready to kick back off. We've already started our sports.
Yes.
We had Spoonamore in here last week after his knock on the head. that was hilarious. And we had the new baseball coach over a couple of weeks ago. I texted you after the interview, and I told you I thought you had another home run hire. And, you know, there was a lot of people that contacted us knowing that we were going to have him on the show because he was kind of an unknown, I think, you know. And so I guess it's kind of like we got his story. Everybody wants to assume that he seeked this job out. He's getting drugged around by his wife. His wife is the important one.
It's amazing how that happens.
Yeah, she's the one that had the job that kind of, you know, pulled them from down to Somerset and then back to this area. So to me, it was a natural fit. But sure. Tell us a little bit about, like, what did you see in Brian when you first met him? What made you call him for an interview?
So, doing some research on Coach Minyard, to be honest with you, like you said, he was kind of an unknown, didn't know much about him, started to do some research, and we decided to bring him in for an interview. And I can tell you, when he sat down and talked to our committee, he had a plan laid out. There was a quiet confidence about him where he knew what he was doing. His experience, you know, as a head coach in Tennessee, he was able to talk about that, and he was able to articulate a plan where I felt like he could build off what Gene and those guys had done the last 5 years, but also put his own stamp on the program. We're going to have a great opportunity to play a lot of young guys this year. We're going to be really sophomore-driven, just with numbers. And I think he had a plan in place. He did his research and knew that we were losing 10 seniors and had a plan to address that need and talk about how he was going to build those young guys up. And so we were really impressed by that. But no, doing the research on Coach Minyard, you know, he took a year off from coaching when his son got hurt. And so there were some unknowns, and so I wanted to bring him in. And so I brought him in for that interview just to kind of talk to him and show him one-on-one before he officially interviewed the facilities and get a chance to know him that way. And then he came in and officially interviewed. And so he was able, like I said, to just lay out a great plan that showed he had confidence and knew what he was doing and believed he would be a great asset to Montgomery County.
Well, and he also scared you as soon as he sat down, right?
Yeah, there's a little bit of young Gene Combs in him. You know, Kelly Johnson served as our parent representative on our hiring committee. We always like to try to bring in an outgoing parent.
Sure.
And Kelly looked at me and he was like, well, that's a young Gene Combs.
Well, we hit it off with him, definitely. Well, one, he's a big wrestling fan, so
sure.
that earned brownie points with us. But he talked about that, you know, when he was on the show. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to that one or not, but when he talked about, I would rather have the younger team.
Sure.
You know, because, like you said, this gives him 3+ years to develop the program the way he wants to do it. And he's still got a couple of seniors and juniors on the team that are going to be key cogs in all of that. But one of the things I loved about his interview was the fact that he's like, there's nobody that's got a starting spot in this roster.
Sure.
There's 9 open spots, and we're going to all fight for it, Who knows? Maybe we got 7 sophomores and 1 senior and a junior out there, or you never know what it's going to be. But I was excited about it. And like I said, we've had Coach Mays on, we've had Coach Minyard on, and we've had Coach Caba on, all recently new hires.
Yes. We
had Coach McCormick on for the golf team, and it just seems like one right after another, you're just hitting home runs with these hires. And I think that we, as Montgomery Countyans, I guess is what you'd call us, I think that, we owe you and definitely should thank you for doing a great job, because I think that you're doing a good job. At least these guys are great on the outside. Now,
sure.
we'll see if the results match it, right? We might be a year from now going, Austin is trash. I mean, these guys are awful. Come on.
Well, that's the fun thing about athletics, and Coach Minyard at his meet and greet did a really good job of setting that expectation that you just laid out to the players that were there. And so at those the meet and greets are always fun because it's the first chance that players have an opportunity to meet a new coach. And it is a true player-parent meeting in the regard that when I introduced Coach Minyard, I talked for 2 seconds because they weren't there to see me. They were there to listen to him. And I just simply said he's going to have the floor, and then players are going to have a chance to meet Coach first, and then parents, you'll come in, and next. And so I want the players to have an opportunity to meet the coach before parents, start giving them an opportunity to meet them.
Well, and I like that because you don't want the parents sitting next to the players going, what did he say about that? What did he do? You can't have that mentality, right? You have to come into it with an open eye, and most of these players are going to wind up having him coach them longer than they did Coach Combs.
Sure.
So this is going to be their coach.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And like I said, he honored in his interview kind of the tradition and legacy that we've had as a baseball program, especially in recent years. Coming off of 5 straight district titles is pretty impressive. But then had a plan to address the fact that we're going to be younger, we're going to be a little less inexperienced after losing 10 seniors, and so he's going to be able to take this program, I think, and continue to build off that success while also it's going to be a new team. It's going to be their team, and they're going to have an opportunity to put their stamp on a baseball program that's been successful for the last few years.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, moving on, you're going to be in our Fantasy Football Listener League.
Yeah, I'm excited. I haven't been in a league in a couple of years, and I'm excited to get back into one.
I actually think we have a few people in the Listener League that have not played fantasy football in a while. So, but look, that's the whole challenge. That's why it's a Listener League. The challenge is to beat the likes of me and Wes. Adam, we're not worried about.
I was in a league.
He does not have championship reign in our time that we've ever played with.
Nor my son.
So, not worried about those guys.
I was when I first started here, I was asked by Chip Manley. They had a Mount Sterling Fantasy Football League, and I was asked to join that. And we went over to Chip's house, and they had an old school chalkboard that they made into a draft board, and we drafted by they had name cards for players, and it was awesome. And so I did that, and that was pretty labor intensive as far as a league. It was very intense. And I got out of that after about 3 years just because my schedule got so busy with kids and everything else. And I've really not been able to get back in, so I'm excited just to do a league.
That was the Mount Sterling Fantasy Football League, the MSFFL.
Yes.
We actually merged with that several years ago, and it was the legacy of the MSFFL. You remember that?
Yep, I do that.
Which we both won championships in that.
That's awesome.
And then we kind of did away with that. Some people moved away, and it just kind of dissolved. And then we went in and we started a dynasty league last year. So me and him were kind of the brainchild of that. We both had wanted to do it. So we're in a 10-team dynasty league.
Okay.
It changes everything in fantasy football.
Sure.
It really does. Because you're not just thinking about week 15, you're thinking about 5 years from now, right? So the strategy is completely different.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, this league here is going to be we're just going to set it up. We're going to draft online. I'm hoping to be able, my goal is for us to be able to have like a Zoom type thing open to where we can all see each other and be drafting. And ideally, maybe try to record it so I can drop it on YouTube and people can watch the draft. I don't know how many people would want to do that. Neil asked me the other day, goes, would you really want to watch somebody doing a fantasy football draft? I said, yes.
He asked me the same question, and I said, I listen to mock drafts on the weekly. So
I do too.
Sorry, I'm a nerd, I guess.
I listen to the fantasy channel, and they do the pro mock drafts. I mean, I listen to them because it's kind of an idea of now. Here's the funny thing I love about listening to these fantasy gurus. I'll do the air tags. They'll be talking about guys to have on their roster that I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. Like some dude that's good for like 5 carries and 27 yards.
Sure.
And you want them on the bottom of your bench. I don't want that guy. I don't want that guy at all. So, I don't know. I think it's funny.
Well, I'm excited to get back into it. I'm definitely not on the same level as you guys. Just for time's sake, I enjoy kind of keeping up. I love the NFL and college football. And so I'm excited just to kind of have an extra piece to it. It's kind of fun on a Sunday when I was heavy in the fantasy league that I just mentioned. Watching on Sundays and tracking your team and some of that stuff, it just makes it more enjoyable to watch.
Well, when I started playing fantasy football, my fandom for an actual team greatly diminished.
Oh, it's definitely more individualistic than a team.
Yeah, because it's like, I don't really care anymore. It's just, did that dude get me a touchdown? How many yards did he get me? You know, I'm still a Bears fan. I don't normally own Bears players in fantasy just because. So I try to stay away from them. But for one, they're not any good. So why would you want them on fantasy? Other than maybe Justin Fields.
So speaking of football,
while
we're on the question, on the subject, so football starts next weekend. On the 19th.
It does, yes, sir.
Rec Bowl here. It's just us in McGoffin County, correct?
In the football game, yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, but I mean there is a all-day event on the 19th.
Yeah, so last year we sat down to kind of look at the Rec Bowl and what we could do to try to up the ante a little bit to get some excitement going. It's hard to find 2 other teams for a game when so many people now have turf. They've all created their own bowl game. They don't want to give up at their home gate, to come and play here. And so we're slowly trying to build that brand back. But while we did that, I wanted to up the ante a little bit. And so we just had our annual coaches meeting, and I firmly believe in this idea of we, us, and ours. And, everything's going to be about us more than it is about anybody else. And so I wanted to showcase our fall sports. And so we sat down, myself and Dustin Luker, and came up with this idea. Well, what if we, play as many possible games on that Saturday and build up to the Rec Bowl? And so, we sat down with that plan, and so this is year 2 of that plan. So we're going to start out with a cross-country meet out at the Warpath, which is at Northview Elementary. That's an elementary, middle, and high school cross-country meet. And then that'll carry us into high school girls soccer, and a middle school girls basketball game going on in the arena, and then volleyball, and then boys have a JV varsity game, and that'll lead us into the high school football game, Recreation Bowl.
That's awesome.
Be a long day for you, right?
It's a long day, but it's a lot of fun being able to walk back and forth in the arena and down to the field and just kind of all over the place knowing that stuff's going on.
Yeah.
And so everything's wide open. People can come in. They can buy a day pass for a price to get in, or they can buy individual tickets, however they want to do it. But, from sun up to sundown, you can be a Montgomery County Athletics fan and just be on campus.
Not only that, I mean, your different teams that you've got coming in for each of these events,
yes,
they see, wait a minute, why is this bus here? Oh, why is that bus here? Because we've scheduled something, each hour, all day long. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's exciting. And so I want our kids to enjoy it. We've got a great, title sponsor in KLL Commissary. And so their sponsorship, along with our gold and silver sponsors, BMC Contracting and Apex Physical Therapy. We're able to get, a T-shirt for every single one of our kids that's participating that day. It's going to have all the events listed on the back of it, and so it's something they're going to be able to remember, and so we're excited about that.
Not only that, with the T-shirts and whatnot, but you also have enough sponsors again this year to pay for all the students to be free to all these high school events, correct?
Yeah, and so Laura Carroll is really the one who spurns that for me, and so she's done a great job of working with these local businesses to raise $11,000, and that $11,000 allows for all Montgomery County students into regular season events free of charge. And so this pool of sponsors, Sterling Health is the title sponsor for that, but with them and these other 8 to 10 businesses, they get $11,000 together, and it allows our kids to come in for free. And so looking at the soccer game, our first soccer game, we had a great little student section, and so I'm excited about that. We've got a great student section group of seniors who I think have great ideas for that student section, along with a good adult sponsor in Megan Tibbs, who has great ideas for that.
I'm going to ask a stupid question. Do we play soccer on the football field?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we sure do.
I thought we did.
It is lined. It is lined for soccer also.
Okay, that's what I thought. But
Yeah.
I'm not a soccer guy. I am not a soccer guy.
Sure.
So,
To be quite honest with you, I enjoy watching our kids play.
Yeah.
And there's something enjoyable about that. Our girls tied Great Crossing last night, 2-2 after being down 2-1 for majority of the second half. But as much as I enjoy watching our kids play, I still can't tell you what offsides is in soccer. Like if I have to Google it once, I have to Google it every season to try to figure it out.
yeah.
Anytime you have a question, just me or Neil, we're always open. I could
absolutely.
It's like hockey. It's the same thing.
Sure.
A lot of those
No,
rules
no,
just
no,
don't
no,
make
no,
sense.
no.
A lot of those rules don't make sense.
Oh well, now that's true.
Yeah.
So football plays McGoffin County on the 19th.
Yep.
Obviously, it seems like they're looking forward to that.
Yeah, so we had a home scrimmage this past Friday night. It was a triangle scrimmage with Fleming and Boyd County, and it was really just a situational scrimmage. They did a bunch of 1st and 10s at the 40, then 3rd and longs, goal line, so real situational work. And so then now they'll head down to Rockcastle County this Friday night for a game simulated scrimmage. It's just them and Rockcastle at 6 o'clock on Friday down at their place.
Nice.
We got Coach Kiper coming on next week.
Yeah.
So that'll be exciting. We wanted to try to get him on before that, and
Well, he and his staff have done a great job this preseason working the kids, and so they've been practicing 8 to 12, every day, doing what they need to do to get ready for the season. And I'm looking forward to what they're going to put on the football field come the 19th.
yeah. Well, and I'd say he will be too. I know.
Sure.
Just when we talked to him the first time, number one goal was to try to get these kids in shape.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was the biggest thing is trying to get that done. Of course, we had some big seniors leave last year, so he's going to be kind of in the same situation, with some youth.
Yeah, so we have some youth, and there's, nothing generates winning more than winning.
Right.
And so getting that first one under your belt's important. And this one, carries a little extra weight from him. He's a McGoffin County alum, and so
Right.
he's looking forward to playing, his
right.
alma mater.
Right.
And so I think that's a pretty cool piece of it for him.
Yeah. It's kind of like Coach Combs saying that Madison Southern was the ex-girlfriend.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
That's great.
So, well, that's pretty cool on that
Yeah.
part of it there.
While we're on the subject of football,
Sure.
I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah, go for it.
So recently, and I think everybody has seen, some back and forth on social media about the rec. Our local rec department has said football is going to be pads only from 3rd grade up. There's a lot of districts around us that are starting pads.
5th grade up.
You're right. I'm sorry about
Yeah,
that.
5th grade up.
5th grade and
The
up.
3rd through the 5th, they're switching away.
Right. So
and going to like flag
5th
football.
grade and up,
Yeah.
and a lot of districts around us start in the 3rd grade. That's what I meant to say. Sorry.
Yeah.
Which is, if I'm not mistaken, that's what we've been doing up until this year.
Yes.
Yes. As far as
Yeah,
So,
I think we've started, at least since I've been here, which is, going on many, many years. It's 3rd grade is when you started tackling.
Yeah. So, Injury-wise, I understand maybe that might be a possibility that they're thinking of or whatnot. There's a lot of parents that think, hey, if they're in third grade, they need to start understanding how to tackle and whatnot. What's your thoughts?
So coming from a coaching football perspective,
and you've done that before.
I have. So I coached at Montgomery County for 10 years prior to becoming the AD, and so I was an assistant football coach here. It doesn't matter how many years somebody tackles, you always got to reteach them how to tackle. And so starting a little bit later is not going to be as detrimental as I think people believe it will be. I am of the mindset that you probably don't need to start tackling until you're a little bit older. I think 6th grade is about the prime opportunity for that. Now, with that said, I'm probably in the minority. I know that many people in the community, want to tackle a little bit earlier, but I don't think it's necessary. I think there is some fundamentals that can be taught in flag, and so I'm on the USA football train of thought where flag starts a little bit later. I think if you look at the kids that are playing football on the roster that we have and go back and look at the number of kids that played tackle football in 3rd grade, you're not going to see very many kids that are on our roster now. We do a really good job of bringing out middle school kids and kids that become freshmen to play football. Our numbers from when they're in 3rd grade, by the time they get to high school, there's not a lot of those kids that make it all the way through that program. I think this is an opportunity to include more kids, and I look at it from that regard. But I'm okay with the move that they made because I don't necessarily think you're ready to hit until you get to that older level.
Okay.
So you're definitely in the minority on that.
Yeah, and that's okay.
There's a lot of people that are literally considering leaving Montgomery County to go to other counties just because of that.
Well, I think if you look, I might be in the minority here in this community, but nationwide I'm in the majority.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see a push for that. And, I think the Parks Department will do a good job. I think as it kind of gets rolling, I think they're under this whole remodel of moving to parent-driven leagues, if that makes sense. For example, swim, that Parks and Rec, it's a parent-driven team.
Gotcha.
Right? And so I think they want to kind of move to that model in all of their other sports. But in this case, I think that it's the right decision. And I know that it doesn't seem that way here in the community, but I think nationwide you're looking at a movement that's going to be like that.
Well, you're always going to get it doesn't matter if it's mouth-to-mouth communication or whether it's social media. You're always going to get the negative. You're always going to see the negative before you see the positive. You're always going to do that.
It would probably be the exact same way if it was the reverse, right? If it's always been flag, and then they want to start going to tackle,
100%.
It'd be the same way.
Yeah, it would just be the other side that would put the negative, the possible negative comments on social media that you actually show first.
Sure.
And,
but I think at the end of the day, if you can get kids to actively participate in athletics at a younger age, there's a better chance to get them to participate when they're older. And I agree with that. That's our stance. And so if you look at, football or soccer or any sport, you see schools right now that are having to shut down their seasons because they don't have enough people. Harrison County reached out and canceled a JV soccer game with our boys that was scheduled for later this month because they don't have the bodies to have a JV team. And so participation numbers are important, right? And so, and especially for a sport like football, if you can get kids to buy into the idea of football and a team sport, it's a lot different than any other team sport that we have. There's not travel football like there's travel baseball, basketball, soccer. Yes. Get them bought into the program. We can get them coached up when they become 6th graders. We can teach them the fundamentals of how to tackle because you have to every year anyway. It's a requirement. You have to take a day of practice and reteach how to tackle. You have to, and you've got to document it.
Yeah.
From my standpoint as an athletic administrator, we've got to have that practice plan that shows an acclimation period. Day one, you're not going out and thudding up. Like, you have to acclimate. And so teaching how to tackle is
thudding up. I like that's my fantasy team. I'm going to do right now. That's what it's going to be, thudding up.
And so I think at a younger level, it's about participation numbers. It's amazing. The flag is going to be opened up to female athletes for the first time here. I got a letter from Campbellsville last fall that was, hey, if you've got any female athletes that aren't going to pursue collegiate in their sport, we're offering scholarships for female flag football. So Campbellsville has a female flag football team.
Wow.
So states like Alabama and Georgia have now sanctioned flag football as a spring sport. And so they're playing female flag football and having it, sanctioned, so they have a state champion. So flag football for female athletics is on the rise, and so schools like Campbellsville have kind of jumped on that opportunity. And so I think that it's a good way to get some young ladies involved. And
interesting.
Again, just buying into athletics.
Well, and see, that's why we asked the question, right? A good media person asks a good question. The angle that you looked at, that you said that, like if you look at our juniors and you go back and go, how many of you all played in the third grade? And if that number is minuscule, then it makes complete sense. And the argument has for everybody has been, well, they got to learn. But like you said, we're reteaching them every year anyways. And ideally, sixth grade is when they really start picking that up.
Sure.
For the most part. And when you look at it this way, and I'm sure Coach Cable will agree when we talk to him about it, they don't really become Coach Cable's responsibility until sixth grade anyways, right? I mean, that's the kids that are going to start working into his type of program.
Somewhat.
Well, I would say that all of our coaches have a hand in their sport in the community.
Yeah.
Whether it's super hands-on, Coach Kevin Miles works with the King's Hammer program real close for those elementary guys.
Right.
I would hope that Coach Minyard now will work with some of the travel teams and make connections with those guys in our parks department. Coach Mays is going to be real active in the basketball leagues here in town. So they want to have a hand in it, right?
Right.
And so, especially when they get to middle school, you want to kind of install your systems early so that when they come to high school.
That's what I mean. His system,
Absolutely. And so you want to you got to trust your middle school coaches, give them a little bit of freedom, but you give them a framework for your program.
Right.
And I think that's where Coach Kaba is. But I do think that there's got to be a cohesion between middle school athletics and high school athletics. That's where my mind goes.
Yeah.
I think at the young levels, I think participation is key to build interest in athletics, and then you really start honing them in when you get to middle school and you start competing, right? Yeah. And so our middle school has got to feed the high school. And so I'm very much into that. I want our kids to participate. We have an 1,100 student body in middle school, which is pretty big.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a bad thing in my mind if we were ever to have two middle schools, because all of a sudden that doubles all the kids that get to participate in athletics, and then just continues to grow the athletic program at the high school.
Well, I mean, if we keep going at those kind of numbers, we won't have a choice.
Sure. But I do want cohesion between the middle school and the high school, and I want kids that are in those youth leagues in elementary school to be able and say, oh, hey, there's Coach Kaba. I know him. Oh, hey, there's Coach Mays. I know him.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And, I mean, the way you lay it out, I don't disagree.
Sure.
That probably will make a lot of sense to a lot of people. Probably, and the people that have already made up their mind, Adam, will still go somewhere else.
And and that's okay. And that's going to happen.
Sorry. No, I mean he put that in there just as smooth as could be. I couldn't help myself.
Adam's all tore up.
I know, and that's okay.
But Max is 3, and he wanted him to be in the Caba's summer stuff. So I mean, he just really wants the boys to be involved in all of that.
And, and here's the thing too, with people like Adam and anybody else that's been upset, it's just because they're passionate about their kid.
Right.
And so, and the one thing that you've got to remember, and Coach Mays, I think, has said this, and I don't know if he said it on your show, but there's always going to be a gap between an athletic program and a parent, right?
Yeah.
You as a parent are always going to love your kid more than you're going to love the program. As a coach, you're always going to love the program more than you love that one specific kid. Yeah. And so you've got to work to try to make that gap as small as possible, but that gap's always going to be there, right?
He has said that, yeah.
And so I stole that from Jason, and he can get over it. But, same thing in youth sports, right? So they're trying to really work to increase their participation, and you've got parents that want to see their kids succeed. We're trying, I'm sure, as a parks department, to have success and get our numbers up. and be a really good Parks and Recreation department. And so there's always going to be that gap.
Yeah, and I mean, my daughter was late to the game in athletics, but the amount of people at with kids at younger ages now that drive their children to be the next Peyton Manning or Mike Trout or Tiger Woods or whatever it is, there's a little bit of lunacy that goes into that, right? Just nonstop driving these kids to the point, and then sometimes it gets to the point: is it the kid that wants this, or is it the parents? And I think that happens a lot. I supported my kids in whatever they wanted to do, and to be honest with you, that's just the way I would do it. If I had to do it all over again and they were all in athletics, do I want them to win? Absolutely. But I want you to have fun, and if you are great, you're great. We had Maddie on here last week. That she's knocking on D1 type offers as a sophomore playing golf. But she was like sitting here checking her watch, ready to go hit balls again. Right. That was the dedication she has. But that's her drive, right? That's the way she was. And so some kids are going to have that drive, and some kids aren't. And the best thing that we can do is have the programs in place to support whoever fits that mold.
And I love athletics, and I want to see my son succeed in whatever he does. And I think all of these parents are coming from a good place. They care about their kid,
right?
And I think that's what you got to remember. And social media tends to make things much worse than probably what it is, for good or bad. It's a great tool, but it comes with its downside.
Well, and I think some of it comes from there's not been a huge support in our Parks and Rec prior to this announcement. So I think this was just kind of like the icing on the cake.
Sure.
But, it is what it is. We just have to try to make the best of it. And, if we lose 20 kids but we gain 80
sure.
that are more progressive.
That will be the test is what do the numbers look like?
Right.
And I don't know. I can't tell you how many kids are signed up. I know Will's going to play flag football. That's my son. He's going into the third grade. He's going to play flag because he enjoyed it last year, and we'll see what the numbers are. I think they start practice next week.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be good. But it all goes back to participation in numbers, right?
Yep.
And that's part of our job at the high school. Part of our Title IX report is looking at, the total number of male athletes and out of the total number of male students, and same thing on the female side. And so they look at those things, and they want those numbers to be within a certain threshold, and we want as many kids to participate in athletics as possible. We try to offer, as many things as we possibly can for our student athletes. We talked the last time I was on here about boys volleyball is kind of coming onto the scene. Girls wrestling is now sanctioned. We joke, Miss Lawson and I, I don't know if you've seen these hobby horse competitions that have hit TikTok.
We just shared that this week.
Oh, did we? I didn't.
Neil said I'm 100% doing that. I don't care how I have to get into it.
And so, we were joking about, is that the next thing that we offer, and just having a good time, and we did that lightheartedly, but we try to really offer whatever we possibly can. And it's not just athletics at the high school. I mean, we have several successful clubs, whether that's FFA or mock trial, to get kids active. I come from a mindset where, you're not going to learn everything you need to learn in the classroom. You've got to do some other stuff to become as well-rounded as possible.
Yep.
And so you've got to learn to work with people. You've got to put yourself in tough situations and learn, adversity. And the best way to do that is through extracurriculars, and in my case, I firmly believe athletics does that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, I mean, it teaches teamwork and critical life skills and some things, sure. and so definitely, I get that.
We are, and I told my coaches this. We are an extension of the classroom. We are an education-based athletics department, and so we've got to make sure that at the end of the day, it's not just about wins and losses for our team. You have to make your program more relevant than playing time. or kids will quit. There's too
Yeah.
many other opportunities for them to do whatever they want to do.
Yep.
Whether that's, sit at home and play video games, or they don't see value, so they go and get a job. You've got to make your program relevant for your number one starter to the last kid on your bench.
Yep.
And so that's what we really preach. We try to make it as well-rounded as possible and find value for every student athlete.
No, I agree. I agree.
So the other 4 sports that are coming up in fall are cross country, both golf teams, girls
Yep.
and boys, both boys and girls soccer, and volleyball.
Yes.
So, as you said earlier, the girls' soccer team's gotten off. That was their first regular season game, correct?
Sure was. Yep.
Okay, so it was a 2-2 tie, and then are
The boys are playing tonight. They play Kiper High School. They'll go at 7:30 on the varsity side.
Nice. And then cross country is next weekend their first regular meet?
I'd have to go back and look. I think so.
Gotcha.
It's an all-comers meet, which means it's pretty much open. Teams they have a window to sign up to declare, if they're bringing elementary, middle, and high, or whoever they're bringing. And so that'll be, if you've never been to a cross-country meet out at the Warpath, you need to go. You need to see the Warpath and how challenging of a course that it is. It's pretty hilly, and so it's one of the harder courses, I think, around.
I think most people know where that's at, but
Sure.
but remind everybody where that's at.
So the Warpath is out at Northview Elementary. So if you're driving up to Northview, the Warpath sits kind of to the right.
Yeah.
And so that's our home cross-country course, and it's a great course. So they spend a majority of their summer out at Easy Walker and kind of train up to move out there, and so they've started practicing out that way now.
Neil's oldest runs cross country.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it looks. There's the one hill you can see as you're going up. You can see the path that goes up the hill, and I'm like, no, I'm okay.
Sure.
I'm out. I'm good. I'm
It's
not doing
it's a
that.
workout. Just to get up
Rolling
to
down that hill would be easier.
Make
though,
right, absolutely, 100%.
It's a workout just to get up to the viewing area, so you can kind of see where and watch all the runners go. But if you've not been, I would highly recommend going out to cross country and seeing them. We've got our girls MCIT this weekend, so that's the girls golf tournament.
Yep.
It's Saturday out
That's
at
this
Irish
Saturday.
Hills. You need to go out there and see them play. So we're in full swing now in fall
I think
athletics.
Spoon said last week, I think there's 90 girls that are going to be participating in that.
Yeah, it's a great field.
Apparently there's going to be some good food out there too.
That's what I was told. I got a
And,
message from Mr. Crouch
Yeah.
about the food.
And then
Or sorry, Mr. Wills. Not sorry.
they're interchangeable. They're neighbors.
Yeah, we're neighbors. I know exactly what you're talking about.
And, maybe see your boys from corner to corner out there too.
Yeah.
Maybe so.
Holla at your boys.
And then volleyball starts when?
So they can have their first official contest Monday. Their season actually kicks off Monday at home, and so I would recommend. There is no better environment than a good volleyball crowd. They really.
Now, is that in the barn or in the regular?
No,
gym?
they play in the arena.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we utilize the arena for them. It's a great venue to watch volleyball. You can really, if you pack out the lower bowl, we try to kind of push in the sides and make everybody sit down low. Just kind of helps with the crowd and the atmosphere. And so I'll never forget
I'll get hit with a volleyball, guaranteed.
when we won the 10th Region Volleyball Tournament a couple of years ago. That was one of the best atmospheres that I've ever been a part of. So it was a lot of fun.
We saw video of that. That was insane.
Yeah.
Crowd going nuts.
But there is their crowds are into it, and they have a good time.
Volleyball's an intense sport.
Yeah, absolutely.
As I told Coach Craycraft, there might not be a more excitable sport than that because one team or the other is screaming after each point that they win. And it seems like all the parents and all the students that show up and whatnot do the same thing after each point.
And, it's a game of runs, too. So,
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, it is when you get on a hot streak and you're point after point after point, it's exciting. And so it is a fun sport to come out and watch.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that was a good show when he was on here trying to learn the ins and outs of some of that stuff. So
And we're supposed to have him back on at the end of this month. Should be right after their tournament here, the Dink Scott tournament. So we'll have him on right after that.
cool. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, but we're up and running with fall athletics, and so we're excited about it, and I would encourage anybody and everybody to come out on the 19th just to take a look at everything that we have to offer.
Absolutely.
Yep, for sure. Well, Austin, I know you got a soccer game you're getting ready to probably have to head to. We appreciate you coming on again, talking about some of the hot fall topics that we got going on.
Yeah.
You're all over the place, and you're doing an excellent job with everything that you're doing, and we are privileged and proud to be working with you in a lot of this stuff, and we look forward to kind of being out there in the community, with you on some of this stuff.
Thank you.
Well, guys, there you have it for this week's edition of Community Trust Coaches Corner, presented by the From Corner to Corner podcast. If you haven't already, go out and give us a like on Facebook. Also, remember to help promote our Coaches Corner show and our Athlete of the Week. Our community, our teams, our coaches, and our students, they all deserve it. We'll catch you next week.
Stay safe, friends.
The MOCO Four Horsemen would like to thank you for listening to From Corner to Corner. Be sure to go out and follow us on Twitter, on TikTok, on Facebook, Instagram, and even YouTube. Whatever podcast platform that you listen to us on, be sure to go out and give us a 5-star review. Thanks as always, and we look forward to seeing you next week.